Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. I've got a new mic, number one, right off the bat, so if I sound a bit different, yeah, it's still me. But anyways, today I want to talk to you guys a bit about 9.2, week 1, week 2, basically like pre-tier gear acquisition, talents, builds, everything like that for Destro, Demo, and Aff. Now, over the course of basically all of PTR testing and the more recent sims, we've had access to 2-piece, 4-piece tier sets, double legendaries for about a month and a half now, give or take, albeit not really active during most of the testing, but still, a lot of the sims we've run have been influenced by 2-piece, by 4-piece, by double legendaries. But the thing is, acquiring your 2-piece and your 4-piece early on is actually could potentially be challenging depending on how your guild does loot, if you're doing your PvP, your Mythic Plus, everything from the Great Vault. So I want to talk about builds that are still... I want to talk about the builds that are going to be best week 1 of the raid opening up, week 2, week 3, without having your 2-piece and your 4-piece. Because, you know, Wilfred's Reign of Chaos is really cool for Destro when you get your 4-piece, but it's not the best until you get the 4-piece. And there is a similar case for Demonology, and Affliction sort of, you know, interesting spot. We'll get to all that. Any week awards or anything you see here, you can get free off my Twitch. Swing by, hang out, grab them, ask any questions anytime. Feel free to do so. Also, the Warlock spreadsheet will indeed be going live tomorrow night. There should be, I guess, public tomorrow night. There should be a video up on that, probably within about 24-ish hours, give or take. And a huge shout out as well to all my patrons, guys. Thank you for all support a million times. If you're looking at supporting, there should be a link somewhere up here as well as down in the video description below. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it, starting off with the Demonology 0, 2, and 4-piece sims. Oh, and by the way, all these sims are run with one legendary, being the best one for the spec. We'll talk about it, but no Unity, no Covenant legendary. This is all one legendary 0-piece, 2-piece, and 4-piece sims. Okay, so like normal, all the sims will be down below in the video comment section. It should be pinned there. If it's not, leave a comment. I'll wake up tomorrow and pin it there. So we're just getting right into it. The video shouldn't be too long, but I think this is very important to cover to not mislead people. Week 1, week 2, and pre-tier gear acquisition. So going right into it. Now, these are Demonology sims. In the future sims here, you'll see like there's an indicator like 2-piece. Don't worry about that. It just is there to, you know, so I don't forget this is the 2-piece sim, the 4-piece sim. Demonology 0-piece. This is basically Demonology playing Wilfred's, no pieces of tier, going into the raid with the gear that I have on right now, or would have on in game as Demonology. DS being Demonic Strength, Vile Fiend, and this is Carnivorous Stalker. So we're comparing Carnivorous Stalkers and Fel Commando here. You're playing Born to Blood and you're playing Tyrant Soul, your 2 conduits, but that Carnivorous Stalkers, Fel Commando play has sort of come in. Even like over the course of SOD, we've seen some Carnivorous Stalkers play favoring CS in single target over Fel Commando. But if you mix in multiple targets, Fel Commando obviously pulls ahead from Fellstorm, Cleave, Demonic Strength, whatever, what have you. But the de facto single target build with no tier, one legendary, Demonic Strength, Vile Fiend, they're all playing Grimoire Felguard. There's no Soul Conduit playing here, no Grim Inquisitor sims. These are all Wilfred sims. The Demonic Strength, Vile Fiend, Demonic Consumption build is still indeed your best bet. Playing Carnivorous Stalkers in single target, you can opt to play Fel Commando if you're getting Cleave on the fight, like Lee Huvim, for example. Dreadlash Vile Fiend is here, sitting about 75 DPS behind the Demonic Strength sim. And you had Dreadlash Vile Fiend here playing Fel Commando over Stalkers. An important thing to look at here is, notice there's a decent mix of like Carnivorous Fel, some Carnivorous, and like Fel Commando and CS are sort of mixed in here relatively evenly. The actual FTS sim is also pretty low here because 2-piece, you know, increases FTS value, and 4-piece increases FTS value. So moving on to the 2-piece here, once you acquire that, you'll see Carnivorous Stalkers jumps. It's all Carnivorous Stalkers. CS, 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 because that third dog, more Carnivorous Stalkers value. It's basic. It is what it is, right? Carnivorous Stalker is just much better. That third dog, substantial DPS increase. Dreadlash pulls ahead of Demonic Strength here by about 20-ish DPS. Still favoring Vile Fiend. Ignore the 2-piece here. It just indicates, hey, we're playing 2 pieces of tier. But Vile Fiend's ahead by about 20-ish DPS. Looking at the previous sim, it's ahead, well, you know, with Demonic Strength by about 38. But Dreadlash overtakes Demonic Strength, which is this build right here, still playing Vile Fiend by about 20-ish DPS. So previously the build was here. Basically that build was behind by about 75 DPS. Now it is your number 1 build, playing Dreadlash Vile Fiend, and Carnivorous Stalkers. Looking down a bit more, you can see FTS is gaining a bit of value, give or take here. Demonic Strength, Dreadlash mixed in. I think that's more so just the actual Carnivorous Stalkers conduit gaining so much value because of that third dog. You can see basically all the Fel Commando ones just drop off substantially. Now, there's a bit of give and take there. Once again, if you're playing like if you're on an AoE based fight, like Lihu Vim, for example, where you can get some Demonic Strength cleave if you're playing it for whatever reason. Fel Commando would gain some value, but a pretty big plus to the Carnivorous Stalkers value here and the Dreadlash value. Now, moving on to the 4-piece sim, you will also see from the Shadows is about 117 DPS behind, whether you're looking at Dreadlash or Demonic Strength here, about 120-ish, we'll say, behind the Vile Fiend build. FTS gains a lot of value here, and the main reason behind this is because the 4-piece, the imps, when they expire, they do their doom damage, which is Shadow Flame damage. So FTS from 2-piece, higher uptime from third dog, more chances to rechomp with Carnivorous Stalkers to reapply the debuff. And factoring in the 4-piece, Dreadlash and FTS is very, very close to Dreadlash and Vile Fiend, with a 23 DPS difference here and about an 11 DPS margin of error. Now, I'm going to say off the bat, if this is the case, a bit of a low end here, looking at about 11.2 versus 11.23, give or take. A bit of a higher end too, with higher TS uptime. If there's a 20 DPS difference, I'm playing FTS. I'm not playing Vile Fiend. It makes Demonology much easier, much simpler to play at certain points in time. Higher high end, a bit of a low end, but it's not like we're playing VOP Major Demo back in BFA, where you had like, if you got your right procs, the best procs, you were like miles ahead of everybody else. So we got no procs, you're below the tank. It's a very small margin, very small difference here. FTS once again gains value from the 4-piece, the imps expiring, doom, Shadow Flame damage. Pretty solid. Now, I've run sims with double legendaries like a few weeks ago in a video. It seemed that getting the Unity, Universal Legendary belt and playing Night Fae with the DSS Haste amp actually pushed FTS ahead of Vile Fiend here. Not going to run it right now again. This video is more looking at 0 to 4-piece sims with one legendary. But either way, so TLDR for Demonology, once you get your 4-piece, the Dreadlash FTS build becomes very strong, competitive in single target, obviously the best in AoE. 2-piece adds value to Carnivorous Stalkers, Dreadlash overtakes Demonic Strength, but the baseline 0-piece, or 1-piece tier, whatever you want to call it, Demonic Strength Vile Fiend is still pretty much your de facto best go-to build. So it's important to keep that in mind. It's also a similar case for Destruction, so let's get to that. Okay, so right off the bat, people have been asking a good bit about where does Infernal Brand sim the Conduit versus Combusting Engine, because Combusting Engine has previously been a little better than Infernal Brand, all that kind of stuff. I ran a sim here with Infernal Brand versus Combusting Engine. Infernal Brand does work with the 4-piece. I put the 4-piece on. Wilfred sim, it's ahead by about 250 DPS. So you play Infernal Brand over Combusting Engine in spots where you'd want that Conduit. If you're playing with like a Havoc-based fight, just slot in Duplicitous Havoc. Okay, so getting into Destro stuff. Number one, I'm going to say Eradication. I did sim this because it's been, simming better. This is the 0-piece. Eradication has been simming better for a very long time. However, nobody really plays it because it's Eradication, and it's sort of miserable, and losing that extra stack off Flashover, yeah, a little rough, right? So, either way, you can see Eradication here, but for the most part, I'm looking at these sims here, which are not Eradication sims. You pull them up, both the Cinder sim and the actual Reign of Chaos sim, we're playing Flashover versus Eradication. So, I'm more so keeping an eye on these sims, right? This is more or less what we know, though. This is single target. Cinder's Roaring Blaze is ahead of Wilfred's Reign of Chaos. This is just indicating no pieces of tier. Same thing here. By about 70-ish DPS. Now, there's some give or take there, because Wilfred's is, typically 2-minute build versus 3-minute build, so fight duration can, sort of depend a little bit on what you're doing, but either way, similar to 9.0 and 9.1, Cinders and Roaring Blaze does indeed sim better with 0 pieces of tier or 1 piece of tier than the Wilfred's Reign of Chaos 2-minute build we've talked about a lot during PTR, when you have your 4-piece. Moving on to the 2-piece here. Cinder's Roaring Blaze, still ahead of Wilfred's Reign of Chaos. A bit less, though, by about 35 DPS. I'm assuming just 2-minute Infernal gives you a little bit more shard gen, so a little bit more, free instant cast Chaos Bolts and Rain of Fires, basically Bolt. Not a big deal. The 2-piece for Destro, for the most part, is a pretty minuscule gain in the first place. It's pretty small compared to the 4-piece. Once again, Eradication ahead here. If you want to watch these on your own, feel free. But I'm more so looking at these without Eradication, right? When you mix in the 4-piece, Eradication does gain more value because I'll tell you right now, more Infernals, more Reign of Chaos value, more 4-piece value. It just spirals out of control, right? One big synergy loop. 4-piece. Reign of Chaos, right here, comparatively to this. Just don't worry about this one here right now. Reign of Chaos, it actually jumps ahead of the Eradication Sim. You can see how much value Reign with Wilfred's just gains in the first place. So previously we were comparing these two, Cinder's RB to Wilfred ROC. Cinder's RB is here, and the same Wilfred ROC build with 4-piece is right here. So the 4-piece essentially gives you a 728 or so DPS increase with Wilfred's Reign of Chaos playing the 2-minute Infernal build in single target over the Cinder's Roaring Blaze build. And that's because the 4-piece, obviously more Infernals, 2-minute Infernal spawns, gives more shards, so you get more 4-piece procs, more instant cast bolts. And the big thing is that the 4-piece works with Reign of Chaos. Every Infernal you spawn gives you a Reign of Chaos window for 8 seconds, right? Roaring Blaze doesn't do that. It doesn't have any kind of interaction with the 4-piece, barring more shard gen. And to be honest, like, Roaring Blaze is more based around Incinerate and fire damage, comparatively as much to Chaos Bolt damage, right? Which is, you know, more the Reign of Chaos thing. So the big thing to take away here is that until you get your 4-piece for destruction, Cinders and Roaring Blaze are still better in single target. Now, Eradication, once again, it does indeed sim higher. I don't think people are really going to play it because it's Eradication. It's a bit annoying. I will say, comparatively looking at how much it's ahead here by, like, it's ahead by a decent bit more in the 4-target sims because you're casting more bolts. You have more shard gen. So there's some room for it there potentially, but I mean, this is a single target Destro sim. And if you're doing single target stuff, you just play Affliction anyways, or sorry, Demonology. Either or, because Destro sucks at single target, right? I did run a couple like 2-target based sims. I did not slide into Duplicitous Havoc here. If you want to do it, feel free. I'm a bit lazy with it, doesn't matter. If you're playing 2 targets, you know to play Duplicitous Havoc, right? 2-target stuff here. It has Wilfred's Reign of Chaos. This is 0-piece again, ahead by a bit over Cinder's Roaring Blaze. This goes back and forth. It's really fight duration dependent, even more so in 2-target, right? So it varies a bit. More of a consistent damage profile. Cinder's Roaring Blaze, more of a heavy cleave based profile, maybe getting you a second Infernal. Wilfred's Reign of Chaos will pull ahead. And keep in mind, these sims with 2 targets are stacked. So, I mean, you're getting that stacked Immolation Aura value with a 2-minute Infernal versus 3. So, 3-minute Infernal means you're getting 2 Infernals in this sim. But a 2-minute Infernal means you're getting 3. So, closer than it actually seems here. And the value is the same basically across it. But you can see when you get to the 4-piece, so here's 0-piece, 2-piece with cleave. Here's 4-piece. It jumps ahead by a pretty substantial margin. The 4-piece build without Eradication is ahead of Roaring Blaze by about 1800 DPS, comparatively to the 2-piece being ahead by about 700 DPS. So the 4-piece for destruction, very, very, very strong when it comes to playing the Wilfred's Reign of Chaos build, but you're still going to want to play Cinder's Roaring Blaze in a general single target base setting for Destro until you get the 4-piece, and 2-target settings, it'll vary a bit depending how the fight actually goes. So important to keep that in mind. It's not Wilfred's Reign of Chaos off the bat. It's still Cinder's Roaring Blaze if you're playing single target Destro for whatever reason, heading into 9.2 and trying to acquire tier gear. So when it comes to Affliction, I'm going to be honest, not much really changes with the 2-piece or 4-piece. It basically is the same. Malefic Wrath is good in single target. Synergy is probably what you're going to play in most other settings, like in the raid. If you're playing, double legendaries down the line and you don't want Malefic Wrath, Decaying Soul Satchel is like your double legendary, right? It is your Unity Covenant belt if you're playing Night Fae. These sims aren't like indicative of 2 different builds here, or like something changing down the line, right? But I wanted to show you the difference here between 0-piece, 2-piece, and 4-piece for Malefic Wrath, because the 2-piece extends dot duration and increases baseline rapture damage, and the 4-piece gives you free rapture procs. So I just wanted to show the actual difference between, like, all right, no rapture procs and no dot extension versus 2-piece dot extension and then 4-piece getting the free rapture procs as well. Because when you get the 4-piece, it actually makes maintaining Malefic Wrath, as long as you play it properly, pretty easy to do for like the entire duration of the fight, as long as you don't screw it up. So 0-piece right here, once again, yes, I know DSS is going to be your Covenant legendary. I'm just giving it as an example here as a baseline. Hey, this is how it works in 0-2 4-piece, right? Malefic Wrath, basically 9k, ahead by about 738 DPS. 0-piece. 2-piece, it's ahead by about 873 DPS because of dot extension, everything else, more time to like cast Drain Souls, more time to rapture if need be, whatever. It does pull ahead by about I guess about 150-ish more DPS here, 140. When you get to the 4-piece for Affliction, it pulls ahead by about 948 DPS because more Rapture casts, so easier to maintain Malefic Wrath, buff, more time to drain soul, more dot extension, so easier, more drain soul cast, whatever have you. It just sort of, gets a bit more value with 0, 2, and then 4. But for the most part, like, you know what you're going to play for Affliction. Honestly, a lot of the 9.1 stuff is still pretty much the same because they didn't touch AF really this PTR cycle. Malefic Wrath and single target, probably synergy on most in other places in the raid. Like, you might be able to play Wrath Consumption on fights like we're not playing Malefic Wrath and can't, like, you just want that dot based effect. But yeah, in the end, like, if you're playing Malefic Wrath stuff in single target for AF, you might as well just play Demonology because, like, yeah. So yeah, let's talk briefly about what legendaries to craft right now. Honestly, it's sort of a trick question. You shouldn't craft a legendary at this point in preparation for 9.2. There's no real reason to, because we're still not sure what piece of gear you want to make it on. If you really want the effect and haven't played with it before, make it on like a rank 1 piece of gear that costs like 200 gold with the auction house. And then if you have to scrap it down, it doesn't cost you, 200k. From buying legendary at rank 5, you have to, they have to destroy a week later. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one is because Blizzard is still changing the loot tables in the raid. They added this neck like 3 days ago, I'm pretty sure. It's sort of wild. Basically all the trinkets barring this one and like this one are still not open for testing on PTR. They aren't in Simcraft. They're not even finished. Like this one, we don't know what's going on with this. There's no chance this goes live with, 1100 secondary stat. This is wild too. This trinket could be incredibly busted depending what happens with it right here. Trinkets are in a weird spot. Gear is in a weird spot. And obviously there's tier, this raid, right? So you're going to want your 4-piece, and you're going to want your, class-based legendary, and your covenant-based one. Now, the covenant-based legendaries can be moved to a different slot once you get, I think, honored or revered with the new zone in Zereth Mortis. I forgot what rep it is. It doesn't really matter a whole lot right now. But, so you're going to want to have your 4-piece of tier, right? Plus, like, your class-based legendary, and then your covenant-based universal legendary on 2 of the highest main stat / secondary stat non-tier pieces that you have. Which is going to vary based on what class legendary slots they can go into, right? Now, there's another element of surprise that Blizzard threw at us a few days ago. So the last 3 bosses in the raid have increased item level loot, 285, right? Tier, throughout the raid is, 278. 278, we've got 278, but they changed this last Friday. Tier from the last 3 bosses is now 285. And 285. So I'm not sure if this is going to change again. They might make the rest of the tier 285. They might change this back. It could be a bug. I don't know. But if it's not, then these 2 pieces being shoulders and being helm, or being shoulders and chest, I'm sorry, not helm, are basically set in stone as 2 out of 4 pieces you want for tier, which leaves, the other 3 as potential options. So realistically, like, okay, you might say, well, okay, shoulders, for example, are from, I believe, Lords of Dread. Malefic Wrath, for example, is shoulders and gloves. So theoretically, yeah, okay, I'll make it on gloves, right? But at the same time, the Jailer also has good haste mastery gloves, which can be turned into tier gloves week 8 down the line with the Crucible, whatever it's opening up, with good stats in them as well. So it's actually pretty complicated and convoluted as to what you want to make right now. But the best answer is just don't make anything, because this is all changing, and, there's not really a reason to make a rank 5 or rank 4 legendary at this point. There's really just not. Every piece of content in 9.1 is probably pretty trivial and remedial right now. I would wait as long as humanly possible to make your legendary. Trust me, there's some that I want to make now too, and I want to play with, but in the end, I don't want to waste crazy amounts of gold for no reason. So the best answer, honestly, is to wait and see what happens. If Blizzard changes things, hey, we'll update it. Once again, the spreadsheet is coming out tomorrow night. That covers basically all the legendary slots and highlights, hey, you could make this here, but heads up, this might change. It'll all be available to you guys within the next 24 hours or so. But TLDR, honestly, the best thing to do is just not make one. I know it sucks. I know it's a bad answer, but it's just real life. Because if you want to make it on gloves or whatever for now, go ahead. But just keep in mind, if you do, you might be wasting, a couple 100,000 gold. So my advice is to just not make anything now. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video answers some questions for y'all that you've had over the past week or so. It's a video that I've been trying to find time for over the past week. I think it's a really important one to make because of like the changes in gearing and talents and everything with the 0-piece, 2-piece, and 4-piece before the actual tier set is acquired and all that. I don't want to mislead people in saying, hey, play Wilfred's in Reign of Chaos, you know, week 1, and play, you know, FTS Dreadlash in single target week 1, because that would be a pretty substantial DPS loss until you get your 2-piece or your 4-piece. And the same sort of goes for legendary crafting. I think the best idea is just honestly to wait at this point and see what happens. I know it's a crappy answer, but it's just the truth. I haven't really talked about this a whole lot, and I want to make sure that it gets out there before the patch happens because you know, it's pretty important. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about these. I guess, you know, loot changes, basically everything about this. I know it's sort of a weird topic. Down below in the comment section, any questions, drop them down there as well. I will be sure to get back to you. Any week wars, profiles, or add-ons to see here, once again, all for free on my Twitch. If you want to swing by and grab them, hang out, ask any questions anytime, feel free to do so. And one massive shout out again to my patrons. Thank you guys for all the support. Really truly appreciate it. Thank you. If you're looking at supporting, there should be a link somewhere up here as well as down in the video description below. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.